Okay, I know this video will sound like some doomer shit, but just hear me out. And there will also be a part 2 to this where I explain a lot of cool hacks and how to achieve true freedom, okay? So stay tuned for that. Okay, so first we'll start with this. Buckminster Fullerene said a pretty smart quote, which I use a lot. We can do more and more with less and less until we can do everything with nothing. And we are getting to that point. Jobs will basically cease to exist, and for a long time they have been decreasing, simply because we can do everything with nothing. Now, many people like to use the intellectual argument that innovation and like automation creates a lot of jobs, like computers create a lot of jobs, and this is true, I agree, but again, they replaced more than they created, okay? Efficiency means doing more with less. Less workers, less jobs. Combine this with the fact that the lower rungs of the economy are disappearing, the economy looks pretty bad, right? Trade is no longer a thing. And I'll give you an example. You know what a cobbler is, right? Earlier, you'd go to somebody and buy shoes from them. Earlier, shoes used to also be repairable. People would stitch them up and resole them. How many of you know what it means to resole a shoe, right? No, you just order a new one from Nike or whatever the fuck. Shoes back in the day would also last generations. But again, nowadays, the attitude is just to replace them by ordering them online or going to some shopping mall and buying them from some kind of franchise store. The cobbler who owned his shop also passed it down to the next generations. He was also a valued member of the community. Now, everyone is just a replaceable worker for some sweatshop. Same thing with repair. Goods are being made harder to repair, so you're dependent on the company that produced it. This is also more profitable. There is more control involved in this. All the lower and middle rungs of the economy are gone. You're either at the top or you're just fucked. And again, there was a time in US history where a black person working an automobile manufacturing job, basically a factory job, could actually support a family with 2 kids and own a house. This time has long passed. Okay, you cannot do that in today's economy unless you're rich as fuck. This is why there's the meme of the boomer economy, right? Back then you had a chance, but now the corporations basically control and dominate everything. Another example of jobs not existing and the economy being fake would be David Graeber's bullshit jobs. Again, you don't have to agree with the prescriptions, but the descriptions are true. And here's another thing a lot of you didn't know. The STEM shortage myth. That's right. The STEM shortage was actually manufactured by corporations as a myth to get more people into STEM. The purpose of the education system is to produce obedient slaves and good consumers, not thinkers, innovators, leaders, or good citizens. The education system was designed by billionaires like Rockefeller and Carnegie.
With your feet on the air, your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin it, yeah. Your head will collapse, but there's not.
Read The Country School of Tomorrow by Frederick Taylor Gates. He was the first clergyman in the US who kind of started this whole education thing, and he teamed up with Rockefeller and a bunch of these other dudes to basically make an education system that serves the corporations. The purpose of the education system is to make a population that will submit to authority. I'll put some snippets of the book here. It is one of the most horrifying books you can read. It is only 20 pages. The education system was built with that purpose in mind. We need to just get rid of it, okay? And again, corporations can demand more and pay less. You can hire 3 people and pay them all $60K a year, or hire one senior developer and pay him $100K a year. But he does the work of 3 people. Things like this and trends like this also happen a lot. There's another book called Enjoy the Decline by Aaron Clarey. All in all, automation and efficiency will allow corporations to literally own and control every aspect of the economy. And according to F.A. Hayek, this is totalitarianism, okay? Another phenomenon that really scares me is centralization. Everything is now produced by a few people, or you could say a few entities. Again, think about the cobbler example I used earlier. Sadly, this also applies to farming, and in farming, we can really see how bad and unsustainable this is. Joel Salatin explains this very well. He calls it segregated versus integrated and entanglement with the system. He also talks about how mega processing plants for meat are not only unsustainable, but also carry lots of risk due to their centralized and dependent nature. He uses the example of how the Russia-Ukraine war led to increased fertilizer prices, which basically fucked up the whole supply chain. Freedom is participation. He also explains how we have ditched all our essential chores such as farming or cooking, and we've basically become dependent on corporations to do it all for us.
And as a challenge to everyone, freedom comes from participation. We spent a couple of generations exiting historically normal tasks and behavior, from integrating livestock and crops, growing gardens, buying locally, and cultivating domestic culinary arts. We even abandoned breastfeeding for a couple of decades. We thought squeezable cheese and subcontracting kitchen duties to mega corporate entities, replacing decomposition with chemical fertilizer, honey with refined sugar, and butter with hydrogenated vegetable oil would launch us into a new freedom nirvana. But instead, it shackled us, enslaved us to nefarious sciences, bringing us fertilizer and menus from laboratories instead of from God's ecological womb.
And these corporations are not held accountable at all, and the system is also extremely precarious. Again, you import massive amounts of fertilizer from a place. What if something happens to that place, such as a war in the example I used earlier? Quantity and mass consumption have taken over quality and long-lasting goods, because I suppose it's more profitable. Earlier, people would buy things that last forever. They would make practical purchases and buy repairable goods. Nowadays, it's all fast consumption and dependency on corporations. Economics, the foundation of economics, is based on rational consumers making informed decisions.
You know what markets are supposed to be. Markets are supposed to be systems in which informed consumers make rational choices. Right, which began in the United States and Britain, incidentally. Huge industry. Every ad is an attempt to create an uninformed consumer who will make an irrational choice. Right?
It's basically an attempt to rig the market, so to speak. Again, education is also propaganda. I said this earlier. Think about it. The bells, the ordered tables, permission to piss, emphasis on precision and tests, memory and execution of repetitive tasks. What do you think it is? If you want more information, you can watch these two videos. Ideals like patriotism and religion are used in the education system to increase dogma and docility. Patriotism is taught in American schools not to appreciate the value of freedom, but to blindly follow their country and treat it as an infallible entity, to simply praise and not question. Because asking the question, how can we make things better, is negative, and apparently communism, or whatever the propaganda scare is. Patriotism is also really good for enlistment and militarism. Religion as well. The entire education system is based on dogma and teaching kids how to blindly follow it. American students don't read John Stuart Mill, or even John Locke, or Adam Smith. Studying economics is dumb unless you study to suck off the status quo. Thinking is dumb unless you think about how good things are right now. Philosophy is just fully dumb. Don't even touch that. That's completely useless. We don't need to do that. Study science and math. That's all you study. And the only reason you study English is to follow instructions. Don't read 1984. That is too radical. You know what I'm saying? Don't learn about your health. Just learn how to consume. Eat this cookie. Fats are bad. And here's a really quick black pill for you, okay? The food pyramid that places carbs at the bottom is complete bullshit as well. The American Heart Association was funded by Procter & Gamble to demonize saturated fats and promote the consumption of vegetable oils. Also search up the Minnesota coronary experiment. Even science is fucked, okay? Blaming fat people is very easy and very fun until you realize the propaganda and industrial machine that drives people to food addiction and obesity. Then the picture becomes a lot more scary, alright? I'll leave some videos in the description by doctors, which are medical lectures which go over the studies and the history. It's very interesting. I highly recommend you check it out. And okay, now we'll end with a little joke, okay? In Asia, if the government comes to your house and demands to fuck your wife, you're supposed to bow down, watch it, and enjoy it. That's how Asia works. We just obey. In the West, the government comes to your house and demands the same. Initially, you resist. Then the government simply tells you, we need to fuck your wife to beat terrorists, commies, drug dealers, or whatever, or to make more profit, and we need to fuck your wife for innovation, okay? We basically gotta fuck your wife to protect democracy, okay? And then you get a boner, you bow down, you watch your wife get banged, and that's it. Tyranny, I would argue, exists in both hemispheres. But in the West, the geopolitical West, there's just a thin veil of coercion and virtue which make it harder to spot. Anyone who has faith in society or the system at this point is just deluded. They don't want to face what is happening, and they want to keep drinking their Kool-Aid and alcohol, lol. Okay? I don't know how else to say it, but the information is out there. Again, there's not meant to be a doomer video. The secrets are open, and if you're smart about this, you can actually see what you need to do to, ironically, succeed, which is what I'm going to talk about in the next video. So please stay tuned for that. And again, you guys, do not become hopeless. I'm not advocating for hopelessness. I'm advocating for self-sustainability and combating ignorance. You will survive if you wake the fuck up. And here's the funny part. You can actually live well. We actually live in a pretty good time. I will say that right now. There are many opportunities now, regardless of how dark the economy really seems. You just need to look in different places. So thank you for watching this video. Please stay tuned for the next one, and have a nice day.